Ever wonder why we relate and connect to stories around us?
Welcome to the DNA Podcast, a show where we discuss books, movies, and entertainment that help us understand who we really are.
I'm Dakota.
And I'm Annabella.
Let's dive into our DNA. Oh, Lord.
We're doing it! Huh! Sorry.
It's happening.
Number 2, I feel so much less nervous this time. I feel like I could just, vibe, you know?
Yeah. I think it was easier to anticipate how the conversation was going to go. But also at the same time, because when I was editing all of this, I was like, okay, I'm going to be very conscious of what I say and how I say it. Yes. And I guarantee you 5 minutes into this, I'm going to be like, and that's why it's so totally literally
so totally
Yeah, no.
It's, also try not to talk like this.
Dude, did I show you the audio recording?
No.
What it looked like? So you know what a wavelength looks like when you record audio? So you want it to be like dee 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 dee. It was like pop 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 pop. It was so freaking loud that I have 4 windows on my desktop right now. One is our outline, you over here, and then down here I'm watching the the wavelength. Because I had no idea. And granted, I found a quick tool to fix it in the moment. But dude, when I saw that, it's as an editor, I was like, I fucked up.
Yeah.
But no, it came out okay. There was some obvious parts you could definitely hear it.
Right.
But I learned my lesson, so I will not be screaming this podcast episode.
She learned her lesson. Thank you.
Sorry, everyone. Just was really excited. So.
You're just really excited.
Yeah, but I am really excited about today.
I'm being fairly honest. I might cry.
Well, I know I used to not cry at movies or really anything because apparently I didn't have a soul back in college. But
correct.
I have since been very humbled, and I will assure you I cried at everything, including this movie, which was probably every 10 minutes. I cried.
Oh, easily. I think I even beat you. I might have been 6.5 minutes. That's right. Yeah, I
always one up on me.
The tears would yes, I am. No, just kidding. The tears would dry and I'd be like, fuck. Another.
Yeah. No, there were so many good moments, and it's funny because when I was in school and we would read books or my textbooks that were on the art of filmmaking and screenwriting or whatever, Little Miss Sunshine was always mentioned. It was. Huh. And I remember it was one of those movies that I always was I got to add that to my list amongst the, hundreds of other ones that are just going to never see the light of day. Mm-hmm. But I saw it, I forget it was on Prime when we were talking about other things we could do. And I was like, I think I would really enjoy that movie. And Alec was like, oh, it's sad, but it's really, really good. And I was so I'm glad I finally got to watch it.
So I first watched Little Miss Sunshine, believe it or not, in 7th grade.
Oh.
Yeah. So one of my friends, she was like, yeah, the humor's really dry. Let's watch it. And I'm a shoo-in for some dry humor. So I was like, hell yeah, let's watch it. I resonated with it in a very different way than I did this time around.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk about that because I've only seen it once. So your perspective has got to be really, really cool. Oh man. I'm totally excited.
So many things just went whoosh, right over my head as a kid watching it versus as an adult where I just sat there crying, So yeah, should be fun.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't know if we gave an official welcome, but welcome to another episode of DNA Podcast. And if you haven't figured out already, we've mentioned it 5 times. We're talking about Little Miss Sunshine. And
who gave it away?
I know. I don't know if I mentioned it, us crying about it 5 times or if that was, the final nail in the coffin. But that's what we're talking about. So do you want to jump in? Do you want to read the description?
All right. Yeah, absolutely. So Little Miss Sunshine was produced and released in 2006. So this is an oldie but a goodie. Written by Michael Arndt, I don't know how to say his last name, and directed by Valerie Ferris and Jonathan Dayton. So the movie basically centers around the Hoover family. It's about a man and his wife, their uncle, a brother, and a grandfather, and it puts the fun back in dysfunctional by piling into a VW bus and heading to California to support their daughter in her bid to win the Little Miss Sunshine contest. The sanity of everyone involved is stretched to a limit as the group's quirks cause epic problems as they travel along their interstate route. This film had over 100 nominations and won 72 different awards, 2 of which were Oscars. So Wow. I mean, like, yeah, it's like a well-known movie, and it's so funny. I had no idea how well-known it actually was.
Yeah, like I said, when I would read about it, it was always one of those movies that was constantly brought up for the story and like themes and symbolism. So my TV film brain had a lot of fun writing and taking
Yeah.
notes and watching this that I can't wait to talk about further. But there are a lot of really good themes. Some of them are a lot more obvious than others. I mean, I'm sure we'll dive into it a little bit, but some of the major themes, this is written from like a Rolling Stone magazine, was while the broad theme of Little Miss Sunshine is hyper competitiveness and the loser winner complex, in hindsight, aren't also comments on various pressing issues like internalized homophobia, body shaming, mental illness, and the influence of family as a social institution. And I think it's goes without saying that this family is certainly, I mean, it's unique, but it's certainly one of a kind. And I think there's a lot of things that are in almost every single family. I don't know if I've met a family that has every single one of those things, but I could definitely pick one and choose, oh yeah, that my family has that, or I know a family that has that issue or that kind of complex. So I really love this movie. I'm so glad we're talking about it.
No, me too. I'm going to give like a little bit more of a summary to give some people more background, because I feel like with our last episode, we really delved into like explaining some stuff. That way it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, so essentially, the Little Miss Sunshine is like a beauty pageant contest. And one of the main characters, Olive is her name. She's the one that is like this innocent, 8-year-old?
Yeah.
In this competition, who was the runner-up for her state. And essentially the girl, stepped down from her crown, as they put it. And this is Olive's opportunity to go compete across the country in California and have a chance to win the Little Miss Sunshine title. Now, she went from competing in a small town to now competing at the Little Miss Sunshine, which is like a national event. So her grandfather is the one who was helping her prep her entire situation. He helped her prep the outfit, the song, the dancing, all of that. So all while she's prepping and getting ready for this competition, her uncle stumbles into the family. It is the brother of the mom who actually tried to kill himself due to previous relationship issues, work-life issues, things like that, like normal adulting issues. So he tried to kill himself. Unfortunately, to him, he failed. And so now he's stuck with the Hoover family for this wild adventure. And, it's definitely, I don't think, something he signed up for. And then we have mom and dad, who are in, the constant American battle of financial crisis in the middle of this movie. Was what, in the 90s probably? Or no, I guess 2006.
Early 2000s, though. I mean,
Yeah. So essentially, dad is this entrepreneur who has this winner-loser mindset and is constantly trying to sell this idea that if you're a winner, you can follow these X, Y, and Z steps and blah, blah, blah. So the whole family is going through their own personal development and like crisis, I feel like, at the same time. And so they're just shoved into this bus and they're like, all right, we're gonna go across the country and hopefully nothing wrong happens. And clearly
then everything
many
wrong
things happens. Literally everything wrong happens.
Yeah.
So aside from the bus breaking down and them having to literally push it every single time it starts, the brother doesn't want to be there because obviously he's forced to attend an event that he finds completely despicable just for Olive in general to be participating in, but the example it sets from other little girls is just this terrible thing he hates. But nonetheless, they get there.
They get there. Oh god, it's so funny. Like I saw this movie like a week ago, and there's so many things that I'm just like remembering as you're telling that. But one of the things that is for me, like a lot of the source of the comedy was that what's unique about the brother is he's taken a vow of silence because he believes in Nietzsche, which is, this philosopher, and a whole bunch of different beliefs go into that. And he's taken that vow of silence because he has a goal, right? And he wants to be, a pilot. He wants to fly planes. And one of the things, as you're talking about, the bus, right? I have a couple things I want to talk about with the bus, but every single character in this movie, which what I'm about to say might seem really obvious, but they have a problem, right? They not even just internally, but externally, right? There's it's stuff going on inside that they're battling and trying to deal with. There's physical things like the job, like the dad. He is pitching this whole winner mentality. He's pitching his whatever 6-7 steps as a sell point of if you follow these steps, then you're guaranteed to be a winner, and if you don't try, you're a loser. People who don't succeed are losers, and he's failing at that. So each family member at some point literally faces it, whether it's physically, like they interact with somebody that's causing that problem, or they have to make a decision internally about how to move forward, which is really interesting. I enjoyed that because, like I said, it's so unique to each character and the way that they interact and move through it. They all do at some point. They all face whatever that issue is head on, whether it's I'm afraid of being humiliated, right? We have Olive, who's going to this competition, who, when you see her, I mean, first of all, she is the most adorable little girl I've ever seen. And if
10 out of
I
10.
have children someday, I want her to be just like that. So I love her. And she's just super cute. She's like a chunky little girl, and she's just like her. She's very herself. And she's faced with a lot of things that make her question her confidence, make her question her talent, her skills, her looks. And, at some point she has to literally face that head on and just choose, do I go through with this? Do I not go through with this? What am I doing? And this girl, like you said, was like, what, 6-7 years old? Like, she's little. She's little. And to me, the biggest takeaway that I loved about this entire film was the concept of growing through what you go through. So taking something that you're scared of, taking something that is a struggle, and each character literally has to go through it and face it head on to actually move on. And that is a huge life lesson. I don't know. I've certainly never mastered it. I don't think anybody has, but
Nope, not over here.
But it's hard. It's something that really rang true to me when I was watching it.
Absolutely. And so before they even embark on this journey, the dad is introduced with what you said, this like process of winning and losing. And he straight up asks Olive and is like, so do you want to compete in Little Miss Sunshine? And she's like, yeah, I do. And he's like, are you going to win? And she's like, yeah, I'm going to win. And he's like, well, then let's effing go. We're going to effing win. That was his way of instilling, like, if you're going to be a winner, you got to go get at it. This whole, like, scene so much brought me to tears because I grew up with a dad that was copy-paste. Not that my dad was selling a 7-step dream to be, a winner or a loser, but he instilled like this winner's mindset in us that if you believe in something, you can achieve something. And so there's a push and pull that you can see in Olive where she's like, my dad's supporting me. He wants me to win. But it's this awkward then expectation of like, oh shit, now I have to win.
Yeah, what happens if I don't? Yeah.
Right. And so, like, it's tough to see that little kid be like, yeah, I'm going to win this title. And the parents are like, are you sure? We're doing this. We're sacrificing. We're taking you across the country in a fucking VW van that's broke as shit. With your suicidal uncle, heroin addict grandfather, and mute brother. Are we sure we're doing this? We're positive. Okay. All right. Get in the car.
Well, when you put it that way, that does sound like a really fun time. I don't know about you, but...
Listen. Yes. I agree.
Yeah, I think that the thing to me that was so interesting is the image that people portray versus who they really are.
Oh.
Prime
Yes.
definition. Dad is constantly saying... you got to be a winner. You got to be a winner. I follow these 7 steps and that makes me a winner, whatever. And he's trying to get this business plan on the roll. But he's actually a loser.
Totally.
He's a straight up loser. And I think obviously it takes him a while to like fully accept that. And you see him eventually accepting that at the end, where he kind of just lets loose and is like, okay, this is just who I am. This is my crazy messed up family. This is just what it is. But it's interesting because you see... To me, as a third party, I see it clear as day. And even some of the family members are kind of like, okay, we've heard enough about your 7 steps. Like, shut up. Like, we get it. Clearly, it's not working. And yeah, just that difference between the person that you're portraying yourself as versus who you really are, and then coming to terms and accepting that.
Yes.
Which, between being a winner or a loser, I don't think anybody really wants to accept that they're a loser.
No,
right?
yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I feel like everybody in this film in some way, shape, or form is facing like a loss, like you said in the beginning. And for the uncle, he is the prime example of what the dad would classify as a loser, because he even went so far as to try to take his own life. Because he was like, that's it, I'm done trying. My, ex-boyfriend left me. I'm no longer the leading scholar. He just loses all of these things down his journey in life, and he's just like, all right, I'm out. I'm done trying. I'm good. And he tries to kill himself and fails, obviously, which places him with the Hoovers. But one of my biggest moments of revelation watching this was when Olive was like, why would you want to kill yourself? And for me, I got like chills when she asked that, because it's when you're an adult and you are going through that like emotional hardship of just life, how do you translate that to a kid who is sitting there with this essence of purity and innocence of life that's just like, why would you want to not be here? Mm-hmm. And
so matter-of-factly, yeah.
Right. The look on his face when she said that, it almost made him question, like, yeah, why wouldn't I want to be here?
Yeah.
And like, so one of my questions I have for you is, imagine what the world would be like if everybody had that childlike mindset of why wouldn't you want to be here? Why can't we just pick up and go to California and participate in Little Miss Sunshine? Really, truly, though, like, imagine what our world would be like if we just had that innocence still in our head till this day. It never goes away.
Dude, yeah, I think oftentimes it's so hard to get out of, like, the pigeonhole that you create for yourself. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, of course, we talked about this, like, last time, but there are times where situations happen out of your control. Yeah. Things happen to you, and you have to learn to deal and move on, but I think we almost, like, how like racing horses will wear blinders, right? But you have these blinders on, like, you're so focused on the situation that you're in and you can't escape it that you forget to kind of look up and look at the world around you.
Yeah.
And it is so different when you see things reflected in kids, or something that seems so serious to you and you see like how a kid reacts to it. I'm sure you being an aunt to how many, what seems like hundreds of kids, but for example, it was our nephew's 4th birthday this weekend, so there was a bunch of little kids, and we met like some family friends that were friends with him, and one of the things she asked is, we were playing whatever, and she looks at me, and I have a nose ring for those who obviously are listening, and she looked at me and she's like, what do you have on your nose? And I was like, oh, it's a nose ring. And she was like, what's that? And I like had to think, and I was like, oh, I was like, well, you know how some people have their ears pierced, right? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, well, I just have a piece of jewelry on my nose. And she was like, okay. Like, she still was a little confused, but I was like, I don't know. But it made me think, I'm like, well, how else would I explain it to somebody who's never seen this before?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's interesting, that childlike mindset when, to me, I forget I have this thing in my nose all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so much a part of me that I've worn it every day for how many years.
Right.
I forget it even exists.
Yep.
Until somebody brought it up, or usually it's the other way around. Usually somebody who doesn't like it says something.
Yeah.
And that's when it's brought up. But it's different when it's a child, for sure.
Right. And so imagine the concept of telling a kid why you wouldn't want to be here. Like, how do you even navigate that? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because now that you bring that up, there was the push and pull between the dad and the mom, right? Because at the table when that conversation is happening and Olive asks her uncle, why did you do that? The dad's reaction is immediately to be stopped. Don't tell her, we're not talking about this, it's inappropriate.
Right.
And then the mom is in complete contrast, and she says, no, it's okay. If the uncle is okay with talking about it, then I think he should say it and Olive should hear it. And well, one, that's like clear different parenting styles, but
right.
Two, it's an important thing to think about, because how do you explain that to somebody? And it's almost an opportunity to explain it to somebody, because I mean, if he was successful,
right,
how would that impacted her?
Right,
you're gonna have to. Yeah, it's very interesting.
And I think that this exact moment, in my opinion, plays a huge role at the end of the movie, which we can circle back to, but it's a moment of, do we shield this moment, or do we let this moment fly and let it be experienced?
Yeah.
And in
Ugh.
this moment, they are like, all right, let it be experienced. Rip off the Band-Aid. Let's do it. And in my opinion, I think that it was to her benefit because Uncle Frank ends up explaining to her, why he did this. And I thought it was to both benefit the girl Olive and Frank because it put into perspective how little the issue seemed for Frank and how he made his situation so grandiose between his ex-boyfriend and the fact that his scholarly endeavors aren't what they wanted to be. Those are just two minute things. And so when he says it out loud to Olive, you see him have this moment of whew, wow, yeah, I guess I put a little bit of heaviness on my last relationship and, my career when I really shouldn't have. And Olive's like, well, I'm glad to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Right.
Thanks for sticking around. You get to come to my show with me now. It's this totally different response.
Yeah.
But I am proud of the parents for letting that ride out because not only does Olive understand now that life might have some hardships that she's going to have to face later, which she does, it's a moment of revelation for Uncle Frank. So
Yeah, it's really I obviously don't know what it's like to have kids. I only know through the eyes of my nephew, and it's hard when there's not a rule book of how to raise any kid. I'm sure as adults now, we know there's no rule book to raise any kid. And there's not going to be at the age of 4, they're going to ask you these questions. I think kids know a lot more than we give them credit for. So when you see a scene like that, and at first you're like, oh my God, that is so dark. Why would she allow them to hear that? But like I said, imagine if he was successful and somebody was going to have to explain that to her. At least she was able to have the experience of asking, well, why did you do that? Because you can't ask somebody that when they're gone, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with what you said. I think it did ultimately play later on into the movie, but I also kind of was wondering, as you were talking, if it started to plant those little seeds of doubt, because she was able to kind of really almost diminish and be like, well, why would you do that over those things? And he didn't really have an answer for that. He was just kind of I don't know.
Yes.
And I wonder if that started to plant the little seeds of doubt of well, wait, can I do this? Am I thought I could do anything.
I totally agree with you. If anything, I think it plants that seed of doubting yourself, or also suggesting these little things in your life do matter. They do, they are going to have an impact on you, and you are going to get hurt or whatever. I'm not sure if I'm articulating this properly, but Olive sees the world as rainbows and sunshines, as she should. She's 7 or however old she is. Whereas Frank sees, the blinder method of tunnel vision and seeing only narrowly right what's in front of you and letting those small things impact you. So for her, I think it's her first glimpse of tunnel vision in life. These things that are going to let you down and you might want to not be here because this place ain't so beautiful.
It's not always rainbows and sunshine.
Right. One of the biggest things, though, so as the family picks up and leaves, they go on this endeavor to the Little Miss Sunshine competition. They're all piled in this van. And, obviously they have to stop and get some food. They have to make some rest stops. One of the biggest things that hit me was the ice cream scene.
I was going to bring that up, too.
So there's a scene where they stop at a diner and, there's the notation of financial struggle because the mom is like, how much can we spend? Or Olive asks, how much can we spend? And they're like, $4. And so, no offense, I can't even order French fries today for $4.
Well, inflation is something else.
True. But anyway, so Olive finds something on the menu and she orders waffles a la mode. And she asks the lady, she's like, what's a la mode? And the waitress is like, oh, it just means ice cream on the side. She's like, perfect. And the mom's like, you want ice cream for breakfast? She's like, you said $4. Here's that rainbows and sunshines again. And
not wrong.
And she's like, all right, fine. But then the dad says, listen, you want to be like Miss America, right? You saw Miss California, how she looked. So, did you notice anything about how they look? And Olive's like, what do you mean? Again, with that rainbows and sunshine mindset, there is no issue with how anybody looks. The dad's like, well, some of them are heavier and some of us are thinner. So when you look at, the women competing in Miss USA, are they heavier or are they thinner? And Olive contemplates for a second. She's like, oh, yeah, I guess they are thinner. Why? And her dad's like, well, if they're thinner, then they don't eat things like ice cream for breakfast. And the face that the mom gives the father is like...
The face that I was giving the father from the other side of the television.
Literally.
I was ready to throw hands.
Oh my God. First of all, I was like, how dare you? She's beautiful. Like,
I know. I'll be crying, how dare you?
Yeah, but then I was also, it was that moment again where they rip off a Band-Aid for Olive when she should be allowed to see the world as rainbows and sunshines, man. She should be allowed to be like, yeah, dude, I'm 7, I'm having ice cream for breakfast because my body's beautiful. But her daddy said, if you want to be somewhere, and essentially instilled this, if you want to be successful in this, you can't look the way you do.
Yeah.
And she didn't know how to process that. You could tell.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so glad you brought that up because there's a lot to unpack in that one scene alone.
So fucking much.
And obviously the first time you watch it, you instantly think, well, this guy sucks. This guy's a loser. Mm-hmm. And how dare he talk to any child that way? But he also is so wrapped up in this winner mentality that he like almost believes it himself.
Yep.
And so I think in his mind as like point of view of the character, I think he's genuinely thinking he's helping. And I think when people make comments like that, I think in some weird twisted way, they think they're helping. Plot twist, they're not. Mm-hmm. And the effect that has on not even just the kid, but like the rest of that person's life is so immense. And obviously she gets the ice cream, right? And she immediately is like, oh no, I'm not gonna eat it. I'll just have the waffle or whatever she orders. The biggest other theme that I love about this movie is, the phrase, like, it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. This is what sparked that kind of theme for me when I was watching this, because you could tell she's a little deflated by that, right? I mean, nobody wants to hear that. I mean, I want ice cream for breakfast, and I'm an adult. I probably could have ice cream for breakfast, but I don't. Mm-hmm. So, she's a kid, and she's not allowed to be a kid. It's that loss of innocence. It's a big deal. And the Uncle Frank and her brother kind of joke and they say, oh, well, I mean, if you're not going to eat the ice cream, I guess I'll have a bite.
And everyone's like,
they're like, this ice cream's really good, Olive. Man, it's a shame you're not having any. And just kind of lightening the moment to say, you know what? We're eating ice cream for breakfast. You can eat ice cream for breakfast too. And eventually she's like, okay, fine, stop eating all my ice cream. Like, I'll eat it. And that is what a village is, right? It's people who look out, they see something. I mean, they didn't like directly attack the dad, which, like I said, I would have been like throwing punches in that diner had I heard that. But, they take that moment and they turn it into something totally different to be like, you know what? It's okay. You can do it. You can eat, ice cream for breakfast because we're going to do it with you and we support you through that. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the overarching theme of the whole thing, is that it takes a village to raise a child. The fact that, the mom breaks the shifting gear and they have to push the bus. I mean, it's a literal metaphor of pushing each other forward to get to where they want to go. It's taking all the family members and how one of a time each one of them finally get to go into the bus, right?
Yep.
And the last one finally jumps in and then they can all go. It's the whole theme of the village, in this case it's family, right? But in general, the village of people that you grow up in, choose to surround yourself in, really shape you and who you are into getting to those places that you want to go. Mm-hmm. And I think that the ice cream situation in the diner was like the first, like, at least to me, was the first, other than the initial, okay, we're going to California, we're going to go to this thing, but it was the first realization of, we're gonna support this girl in every way we can because it takes a village to raise a kid, and she's gonna be faced with a lot of criticism. She's gonna be faced with that loss of innocence of like, hey, this is what happens in the real world. It's not always this, I can be whoever I want. Sometimes it's, you have to make choices, and sometimes people aren't nice, including your own dad. So
totally.
I love that scene so much. There was a lot to unpack there.
So much. And one of the big questions that I had, because I felt like this was a moment that for her was her first experience in noticing societal beauty standards, which she definitely didn't put into account before. So her dad forcefully put that into account for her and said, like, listen, hun, if you're going to be this winner that you said you're going to be, you can't look the way you do because the Miss USA girls look like XYZ. And so, like, it kind of made me recall back to my own childhood and, like, think about the question, like, at what age did I first experience societal beauty standards? And I look back and I'm like, gosh dang it. Yeah, it was honestly like this age. And that's, I don't know about you. I'll ask the same question to you. My first couple experiences were this same exact thing. Granted, I had siblings that were always older than me that were facing like pressure from societal beauty standards because we are all, you know, curvy Italian women not really fitting into a skinny white blonde American category.
Damn straight.
Yeah. So, you know, like I started seeing it way younger where I was like, oh, do I have to straighten my hair? Oh, I have to put makeup on my face. Why do I have to put makeup on my face? Oh, it's because I have acne. Oh, okay. That's not acceptable. Okay, cool. What else do I have to wear? Like, you know what I mean? There was just so many things that I didn't even know. I was kind of forcing myself to fit into this, like these little categories that honestly start so young. And it's scary because I see my nieces and nephews who are at these same age points as Olive going through very similar things because they're involved in things like sports or dance or what have you. And our generation, unfortunately, due to technology, I feel like that Band-Aid is ripped off at birth practically.
I feel like it's almost worse sometimes.
Oh my gosh. I feel like kids aren't even allowed to be kids nowadays because
so true.
They're growing up already seeing X, Y, and Z on TikTok or Instagram or whatever when y'all shouldn't even have phones. You should be outside playing with sticks, like, honestly. But yeah, I see my nieces and nephews struggle with, like, already my one, she's like, I want to be a ballerina and I have to have the perfect body. And, like, who told you that? Like literally, who told you that? Where did you get that? So, and she's 6. Like, how? I don't know.
I know, and it's hard. I can't remember like a distinctive moment, but the only thing that, and it probably happened earlier than that it had to, but I just think of middle school days. And, you know, that to me, I went to public school, so that was what, 6th through 8th grade. Those like transformative years when it's not so much about going to school and seeing your friends and learning and then going home and doing homework. It's about who are your friends? And what are you wearing? And why are you wearing that? And who are you through what you're wearing? And I don't know, like the thing when I was in middle school was like, if you weren't wearing Hollister, Abercrombie, Aeropostale, like all of those name brand things, because you had to have it like branded on your chest.
Literally.
Which is like so insane when you think about it. But that's how people knew, obviously. You know, that said enough about who you were. It said what you could afford.
Oh, yeah.
It said your style, quote unquote, which is when I look back, I don't know what kind of style that was. It looked horrible. But it did. Like when you think about it, like imagine just having like someone's brand name, just which we still do to this day. But it was, in my experience, it was so over the top looking back on it.
I agree.
And I think that was a very clear distinction of trying to discover and navigate those like body image issues, because let's be honest, if you were shopping at Hollister and Abercrombie, they didn't make sizes for everybody. They still don't make sizes for everybody.
I have never once successfully found my size accordingly in an Abercrombie or Hollister store till this day.
It's near impossible. It's a very specific down to the cut in style.
Yep.
And I think it's intentional in some ways, the same mentality of they only want certain people wearing their clothing.
Right.
But that's a clear distinction of who you are. And that was, according to middle school standards, that was your definition of success.
Right. And it's
what you were wearing.
It's wild to me because, like, even in 2006, when this was written, you know, obviously they don't have the same technological issues as our kids are going to have in this generation.
Oh, God, yeah.
But in some way, shape, or form, it's found. In some way, shape, or form, it's instilled because it all circles back to that winner-loser complex, because if you want to be a winner, you got to fall into the categories. I don't know.
Dude, so true. I almost like worry because I had a cell phone in middle school, but it was like a flip phone. It wasn't, I couldn't go on, I didn't have Instagram. I honestly didn't have Facebook until my freshman year in high school.
Yep.
I never had a MySpace. My friends always had MySpace, so I would like live vicariously through them. But, I never had really those issues until I was in high school of the image that you put out of yourself. And now I think of kids, even the generation after us, but the kids that like we're gonna have someday,
Dude,
right?
I don't even want to know, man. Like, it scares me.
I think being technologically advanced at an early age is great. We grew up with technology, and people then probably thought it was the end of the world that we were typing on computers playing, Tetris or whatever. And I do think that there is a very large issue now with social media because you can't really escape it.
Nope.
It wasn't so much like in Little Miss Sunshine where the dad is just making horrible comments about eating ice cream because it builds fat and you're going to get fat. And do you see supermodels? Do you think they eat ice cream? Like, that's a little bit more direct. And in a worst case scenario, you could walk away from that. But when it comes to these things, these cell phones and kids, it's kind of everything and it's everywhere. And I'm sure that whole mentality of body image issues, I hate to say it, but I feel like it probably starts even younger than when it started with us, you know?
I totally agree. And I think that this is also the dad facing a reality of instilling conformity or non-conformity in his kid. For me, this kind of posed a question like, what's worse? The dad having this fear of non-conformity for his child or forcing the child into conformity? What's worse? Like, it was just like, to me, I looked at it and I was like, this is a lose-lose situation. Like, you have a dad who's like so afraid of his child not being this winner. But what's worse? What has a larger effect on the child? The dad's fear of the child not conforming or physically forcing the kid into conforming and fitting that standard? And this plays a huge role in the very end of the movie, which we can get to later on. But I think this is just the first moment that the movie kind of sprinkles it in like, hey, what are you going to do here? Are you going to let her freak flag fly? Or are you going to force her to not eat the ice cream? Like what are you going to do? This is the first time I think that the parents specifically are forced with that because not that it doesn't happen with boys, but I'm very sure that this scenario did not play out for their brother who is mute in the corner anyway.
Well, he's also very specific in who he is. Like, he's a very clear, you can look at him, moody, broody, angsty teenager. Don't talk to me. I've literally taken a vow of silence. My hair is in my face.
My life is so hard.
Don't talk to me.
I hate my family.
Yeah, literally says that. He's like, I hate everyone. It's like, oh, cool, but you're still on the trip, so.
So who loves us here, actually?
Right. But no, you're right. I mean, I doubt that issue. And I wonder if it's because he was old enough and who knows, maybe he did have those conversations in some, other universe. But I certainly don't think it would be the same thing as like, do you want to eat that ice cream? You really sure about that for breakfast? And what I love too is at the end, that little moment does come full circle when she does meet one of the I don't think it was a Miss USA.
It was Miss California. Yes.
Miss California.
Yes.
And, she gets to meet her at the pageant and she's super excited and she goes, excuse me, Miss California, can I ask you a question? And she's like, yeah, what's up? And she goes, do you like ice cream? And she goes, I love ice cream. It is my favorite. And it's just kind of like a reassurance for little Olive to be like, yeah, I like ice cream too. And you're Miss California. You look phenomenal. So I'm going to keep eating ice cream.
Hell yeah, man.
Is that reassurance of like, who cares what anybody says? And I will say, I wrote this quote down that I just,
Stop.
As soon as it was said,
if it's the same one, I'm going to shit myself. Go.
Oh, you know it is. It's when Uncle Frank and the brother are talking and he unfortunately just learned some very heartbreaking news that he's colorblind. And for people who don't know, if you're colorblind, you can't fly. They won't allow you. So he was taking his vow of silence. He was really determined to like escape this crazy family, and all of that just goes down the gutter, and he realizes that he can't do that anymore, and he has a breakdown, and he finally talks. And one of the things that he says after they go to the Miss Sunshine pageant, and he's looking at all of this stuff, and you can tell he's obviously not into any of this. It's very messed up in his mind, and in some ways it really is. And he's talking with Uncle Frank and really reflecting on all that has just happened in the entire trip. And he says, you know what? Do what you love and fuck the rest.
Do what you love and fuck the rest. I literally have it written as proof. Here's the proof. The quote is right here.
I have it. Yep, I have it starred so I wouldn't.
Rest.
Yes.
Done.
Do what you love and fuck the rest. And that's what life is about. That is totally what life is about. Because, in Uncle Frank's situation, we understand that his life could have been cut short.
Yep.
It technically should have been cut short, and he survived. Life is too short to spend worrying about, should I eat the ice cream? I don't look like these people next to me. Am I supposed to look like them? Am I a winner? Am I a loser? Just do what you love and fuck the rest.
Do what you love, fuck the rest, man. I totally agree.
Fuck the rest.
And I think that they have that moment again where it takes a village, and it's finally Olive's turn to get up on the stage, and they all come to a realization that, holy fuck, what did we sign Olive up for? She is a small town girl who doesn't wear the frou-frou dresses, who wears her hair in a slick back pony, that is got these cute little adorable glasses and a little bit of love and chub on her, and she's perfect the way she is.
She's a meatball. She is the cutest meatball I've ever seen.
She is the cutest thing in the world, but she's standing next to tan, blonde, wig wearing, frou-frou wearing, fake ass, makeup wearing 5 and 6 year olds or 7.
Which is also so creepy when you think about that.
My
Like, why are they dressed like that?
I have never in my life, and I am a 25-year-old woman, worn the amount of makeup that those children were wearing in these pageants. And I get it. It's pageant life, sure, not acceptable. I don't care.
Yeah, it's weird. It's straight up creepy. I don't get it. But yeah, no, it comes to that moment where what have we done? And it's parallel to when you raise a child and you've done the best that you can, the best that you know how. You've tried to teach them the right things and yet allow them to be themselves and find themselves, and then they finally go. And you have to be like, okay, you can do it.
Yep.
I hope you succeed. And you just kind of have to watch what happens.
Right. And I think that it played a huge role for the dad, because he had his moment earlier at the restaurant where he was pushing the conformity. He said, to be a winner, you got to be thin. You can't eat the ice cream. However, now on stage, his daughter's about to go up, and he's about to pull her off the stage, which is, again, instilling the conformity. And he has this internal battle where he's looking at his daughter, and he's looking at his family, and then he's looking at the crowd all around him and all these fake little girls and this pageant and what it really means, And the brother says, you have to not let her do this, like this is going to change her for the rest of her life, because at the end of the day, they're judging you based on your appearance. And she doesn't fall into that normal category. And so...
Yeah, and the brother was worried that she was going to be made fun of. And it definitely, for the brother, came from a place of love.
Absolutely.
Like, you could tell he was like, please don't do this to her. It's going to destroy her. Right? Yeah.
Right. And so there's two moments here. A moment, a parenting conflict where, do you let your child experience that and learn, or do you shield them from it? And then the moral of the story was, does dad choose to force the conformity, or does he choose non-conformity? And you know what? God damn it, he chose non-conformity, and I was so fucking proud of him. I'm sorry I'm swearing so much. But holy shit, when he got on stage and danced with her, it was just like...
Best feeling.
Thank God.
Because that there just says, I'm no longer trying to change you. I'm no longer trying to pull you from the situation that you wanted to be in.
Yep.
I'm meeting you where you are.
100%.
Right, the physical representation of being, I'm on stage with you. Well, I think one of the key things here, which is probably the funniest part of the whole movie, is up until this point, the grandpa was teaching her this routine, and it was a whole big thing about how they would practice. And he was like, yeah, she's not really quite ready yet. She needs a couple more practice. So you're thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to do like flips. Like, it's got to be some crazy thing.
Yeah.
And then what she does is...
flosses her ass with her jacket. She does an ass flossing sequence.
Totally inappropriate. And... she doesn't know because she's a kid and she's innocent, and to her, this is just what her grandpa told her. And we could talk about, I can't believe we haven't even really talked about the grandpa, because that was the most heart-wrenching thing, and I knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming.
Me
too.
But regardless, we'll circle back to that. And, it comes to this fruition of her performing this thing and that childlike innocence of like, this is the dance that my grandpa taught me, and she like dedicates it to her grandpa, and everybody there, including the family, was just like, oh my God. And they decide to make fun of it and just jump on stage with her because everybody wants her off the stage. They say, you know what? We're gonna share this moment with her because she's worked really hard to get here. This is her time to shine.
And I think that she is the perfect representation of do what you love and fuck the rest.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Done.
Do what you love and fuck the rest.
Olive got on stage and she went, hi, here's my routine, mic drop. And that, like literally. And what I loved is that at the end of the routine, the crowd is silent because they are just devastated. The whole competition's ruined. They want to get them kicked out. And this one biker dude just stands up.
Oh my God.
And he's like, that was awesome. He's like screaming. And it just is this perfect moment of like, thank God. Fuck the conformity.
There's one person out there who gets it, right?
There's at least one.
Even the guy that was like doing the audio, he was like jamming. He was like, whatever. I do this for a living. I play music at Little Miss Sunshine competition pageants, like whatever. So it's comforting to know that even in a sea of people who are totally not in agreement with what you're doing and how you're doing it, there's at least one biker dude cheering you on,
Absolutely. And I think that is just really cool that they threw it in there, I think, to also show like, while everybody might be seemingly okay with the conformity, maybe we're not.
So true.
And maybe he's just the only person that has the balls to go against the grain and be like, that was dope as shit. Regardless of how inappropriate that was, she just went on stage and flossed her ass with her jacket. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Dude, when she ripped off the pants,
I was gone.
I knew. Because as soon as she said, I dedicate the song to my grandpa, I was like, this is going to be the most inappropriate thing ever.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad I went in totally blind. I really actually didn't see anything other than the trailer for this, which I'm surprised because it's been around for so long and it's such a well-known movie. I am so glad that wasn't spoiled for me because it, as silly as it kind of was totally worth it. Like, it was
100%.
totally worth the whole journey because of just, I mean, in a way, it kind of probably was more metaphorically making fun of the whole I'm so pretty or whatever. It's a very, very sexual song. I can't even think of what I probably, if I listened to it, I would know.
No, can't touch this.
Yeah. She's a very freaky girl as she's like twerking on stage. But she is freaky. I mean, she's like a little cute freak. And that's her. That was certainly one of my favorite parts. At the very end,
The last little metaphorical piece I have for that is we all have this fear, right, to go against the grain. And to be that one awkward one who dances to She's a Really Freaky Girl while everyone else is dancing to, like, Miss USA songs. But
God bless America.
Exactly. Like, Olive was just like, nah, I got my dance, like, whatever. But I think that it also sprinkled in a really cool lesson that, like, we have such a fear to go against the grain. And Olive did that, and nothing happened. And, like, we have such a
She was okay.
Everything went fine. Like, granted, they were pissed because she didn't, compete like the normal girls, but...
Yeah, and she can't compete in the state of California ever again.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's just details. But the moral of the story is...
No, but she did it. She could say that she did it. I think that this reminds me of a situation that I was in, which it's funny looking back on it now, but the decision to go to college and like what to study was big for me. I was the first person. My mom went to community college, but nobody had a 4-year degree in my family at that point. So going to college was a big deal, let alone going to college, going to a 4-year private college, and studying film.
You fucked up.
Yeah, I did. I really did. I think anybody would look at that as a first generation college student looking at that and would be, you sure you don't want to like do something a little more like reliable or guaranteed? And it was a big decision that I had to make. At the end of the day, sure, my parents were going to help me as much as they could with that decision. And I was very grateful to have parents that were very supportive of whatever I decided to study and pursue in a career. At the end of the day, it was going to be my choice, but I did want to say to myself that whether this was successful or not, whether I, one, finished college, two, finished college and got a job in my field, I would have rather tried and not succeed than never to have tried at all.
100%.
And I'm so glad I did that. I mean, it worked out. I mean, I'm very fortunate to be where I am. I'm working in a field that I got my degree in, and I'm in an area that I love.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking back on it, it was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that's really hard for a lot of people when they make decisions, big decisions. I mean, college is one of the many big decisions you make in your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what this overall lesson is, too, is she still went for it. Did it work out in the end? I mean, not really, but if anything, it brought the family together. It was a different blessing in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
They were all bonded by that experience that really changed each and every one of them, you know?
No, I totally agree. And it's funny, I think that, like, college-wise and life-wise, I was the exact opposite of you. I didn't have something that I felt so, like, strong and passionate about. So I kind of sold my family on this idea of me going for psychology because, what else was I going to choose? And so I went, and no offense to my parents, sorry, you're probably just hearing this now if you ever listen to this, but I didn't even like it. And then that's why
You're good at it, but yeah.
Well, sure, because it was textbook, like, I am very textbook smart. And so, like, for me, it was just easy. Regurgitate the info, cool, I got an A in the class. Versus, like, what I do now, I at least have a little bit more passion into, but I didn't even discover that till my junior year of college. Luckily, I was able to just dual major it because that was the only way I was going to graduate on time. At the end of the day, like, I was the opposite. I didn't go in with, like, a passion leading mindset of, like, at least I'm gonna try. For me, I was like, well, I got nothing else to try, let me just stick with something that I think I could find a fallback plan with, which was psychology, and then transitioned into something I was actually passionate about, transitioned into where I'm at now. But in the end, it circled around, but at least you went in following your gut with something.
Yeah, and not to say, like, I definitely had many moments where I would, even around junior year, that's the year, it's the year in high school, but it's the year in college where you have to think, okay, I am eventually going to leave this place. Ugh. And I need to know if what I've been working on is actually going to make me successful, because no offense, when you're a freshman signing your life away on student loans, you don't think about the almost $100,000s of dollars of debt that you're going to be in. Debt is not a concept in an 18-year-old mind.
Nope.
It is when you turn 21 and you have to start paying your own bills, and maybe you live on your own, or you're starting to think about living on your own, and then good old Sally Mae knocks on your door and is like, hey, 6 months after graduation, you wanna pay us like $500 a month? It starts to become real, very real.
Yep.
And I definitely had plenty of times where I was just like, I don't know if what I'm doing is good. I like it. I like to think I'm good at it. But just because I like something and I'm good at it does not mean I'm going to get a job and be able to live a life that I can support myself with. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm very grateful that I had that experience and I had parents who were supportive of that. But with that came a lot of moments of really deep reflection and wondering if I was on the right path, if I was making the right decision. And obviously, like I said, looking back, it was all good. But there were definitely times where I second guessed myself a lot.
Totally.
And in the same token of what we're talking about, like, I didn't want to be a loser.
Right.
I think specifically in, like, the media field, right, in television and film, technically you don't really need to go to college for that. Mm-hmm. And somebody told me that sophomore year, and I was like, well, I'm already in it, so thanks for telling me.
You. No, just kidding.
Yeah. I was like, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
Wait, I had that same experience, except mine didn't come till senior year. In my senior seminar class, our professor went, you know that you guys are, like, getting criminal justice degrees and, like, you don't need them, right? It's kind of like a invalid, like nobody's going to hire you with a criminal justice degree.
Are you serious? Don't you need some kind of education?
Thank you. Apparently wasn't fucking told that.
Well, then, so what do they look for then? What do you mean?
And I had an interview I went to a recruiter for the FBI because that was, like, my goal and, like, whatever. And she was like, so what's your degree in? And I went, criminal justice. And she went, yeah, sorry, that's not, like, really anything that anyone hires based off of, because, like, at the end of the day, like, what did you learn? And I was like,
I learned about criminals and justice.
Yeah, and she was like, we want people that will bring something to the table here at the FBI. So, like, we want people who have degrees in, like, accounting or, you know, a specific field that then you can apply.
First of all, rude.
And I was literally like, bitch, you're gonna hire a fucking accountant? Like, I got, like, my whole 4 years of experience literally just went down the drain.
Wow. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. And then
Dude, that...
Yep. And then at my senior seminar in our capstone class for our major was...
You were like, I have to present on something really important.
Yeah. No, yes. And our professor was like, so, you know, how many here want to be detectives or whatever? Because everyone kept saying like, oh, I'm going to do detective work, investigation work, da-da-da. And that's what I was passionate about. And he was the first person to say, you guys know that you have to be a police officer, right? And we were all like...
Yeah, you don't need to go to college to be a police officer.
Yeah, and we were like, what? You can't just, like, apply to be, like, an investigator? And they were like, no. He was
you gotta work your way up the ranks a little bit.
And none of us knew that. And so it was 2 moments my senior year where I was like, well, now what?
Dude, that sucks.
Yeah. So that's eventually why I was not forced, but had to get my master's, because if I wanted to be anything in this field, I needed a niche point that I focused on, aka digital forensics. That's why I had to do it.
Dude, the college system is so
fucked,
messed up.
Fucked.
Oh my god.
Anyway, sorry.
But anyways, like I was saying, I to the same theme of winners versus losers, nobody wants to be a loser, right? You don't want to be that person. And I know in the TV film world, it's hard. It's really hard. And I think that a lot of people expect that you're going to either go to college and graduate, or you're just going to move to LA, or go to college and move to LA or New York or Atlanta, one of the major hubs, and you're going to just be famous and you're going to meet famous people and then you're going to be big. And if you're not that thing, then you're not successful and you're not a winner, you're a loser. And I did feel that way because, you know, I had made a life for myself here. I had met friends. I had met my now fiance. And it gets to a point where you start realizing what is it that you really value in life. And it was like a shift. It definitely was a mental shift for me because you knew me at my core years of who I was trying to find myself at 4 years of college. And I think it's safe to say that I was always very driven and I wanted to be successful, but my definition of success has totally changed since I became a person in the real world with a real job and real bills to pay. And I'll be honest, like at first I thought that I was doing something wrong and I thought that I was a loser. I did. I felt like I wasn't on the path that I wanted to be on and I wasn't going to be successful. And then I also had a moment of being like, okay, I'm now 26. I was 24 at the time. I don't think anybody at that age has their life figured out. And if they do, they're lying.
Absolutely.
But it's hard. Like it's hard. And I think that you go through certain phases of your life where you feel like a winner and you feel like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm doing great. And you feel like a loser. And I think in the same way of me being in college, being like, oh, I'm going to graduate and I'm going to eventually probably work in the city and maybe I'll move out here to LA if I decide to do that and I want to do this. And not saying I still don't want to do those things. I do. If an opportunity presents itself, I would love to explore that and see what happens. Am I constantly driving myself to pursue that option at this current time? No, I'm not. I'm happy where I'm at. I don't need to throw it all up in the air for something that I'm not. It'd be different if I wasn't happy with my current situation, right?
Right.
So in the same way, I think of as Olive shedding that like childlike innocence, I think it's easy when you're in college of that like bubble that you're in, constantly surrounded by creative people all the time. You're studying things that for the most part you like or you're passionate about. You're with your friends all the time. You are really the leader of your own success. And then you actually go out into the world and it's not that bubble anymore.
Nope.
So it's still, like, it's crazy. I genuinely at that time was like, am I a loser? Am I doing the right thing?
Well, I think something that you're also saying is essentially like, for Olive, she's experiencing her bubble, but that bubble gives her fulfillment. She's happy. She's living that life of rainbows and sunshines. And for us as adults, as failure starts to set in, we start having successful moments, such as graduating college, such as getting a job, whether it be in the field or not. But when these mini failures hit, you still continue to grow and you function in life as an adult or whatever, and you're still a seemingly successful human being. But there's a quote that Tony Robbins said, because obviously I'm a fucking mental wellness guru here, but he says success without fulfillment is the biggest failure.
It is, yeah.
And that has a huge, in my mind, it correlates entirely, because in college, you're living in that bubble, yeah, but you're fulfilled, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, fuck it, you didn't get your job, but you were fulfilled. Right now, maybe you're not a screenwriter, but you're fulfilled. And so for me, that's a bigger success than you having a 9-to-5 where you're sitting in a screenwriter's room, you've never met Alec, you're alone in LA, and you're not fulfilled. That's the biggest failure, is that you've hit that goal, but you're not fulfilled.
So true. So true.
And so, point of the story is, do what you love, fuck the rest. As long as you're fulfilled, man, that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Did you have anything else that you wanted to say? I think I covered everything on my list.
The only thing I have left on my notepad is that at the end of the day, all of that struggle that they went through, it brought them together as a family. Yeah. Even though they technically went home one person short.
Dude.
We didn't talk about Grandpa. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. No, we definitely should. One scene tugging at the heartstring was when they get to the motel and Olive is with Grandpa and she's talking. She's nervous about the next day and the competition. And and she asks, and she's like, Grandpa, am I beautiful? Like, do you think I'm pretty or whatever? And he goes, oh, absolutely. And I'm not saying that because of your personality. Like, I think you're like smoking or whatever, like in his own way. Like, and it's funny because like any normal person would look at that and be like, that grandpa's a creep. But it's that's just how he talks. And it was so loving the way, and it was so genuine, the way that he talked with her. And to think that would be the last conversation they ever had.
Oh, I just got chills. You said that, I just got chills.
That broke me. And I knew as soon as he went into that bathroom.
Yep.
Heroin addict, Grandpa. I knew it. I was like, this is going to tear me apart.
Yeah.
And it did. It did.
I think that Grandpa had a very background role, but a very large impact theme-wise, because Grandpa was the exact embodiment of do what you want, fuck the rest, because of the fact that he's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, and at the end of the day, he's like, I'm going to sit here and do what I'm happy, and if it's fucking heroin, I'm doing it.
I mean, granted, he is old, right? I'm not condoning it, but, I mean, he's old.
Listen, if I'm 80 years old, exactly. If I'm 80, 90 years old and I'm like, Dakota, you want to shoot some heroin? You better fucking say yes. I don't give a shit. What? I don't care where you are at in life. We're going to shoot up one day because who's going to stop us? My job?
The police, I guess.
All right, we'll do something legal. Or we could just go to Utah or Oregon because, like, we could do crack and it's legal there. Did you know that? Yeah, it is. Yeah, anyway. But moral of the story is Grandpa is this perfect reflection of the major theme, is be who you are. Who cares? Don't conform. Does Grandpa conform? Hell nah. And I think that the life and the family structure that Olive comes from with this mom and dad of expectation and winner versus loser mindset, Grandpa is the safe haven. Grandpa is at the end of the day, I can look at Grandpa and be like, can I have ice cream? Am I beautiful? And Grandpa's going to be like, have the whole fucking tub.
Yes.
Have the whole tub. Let's go.
I love what you said about how he is kind of like a background character, but he has the biggest influence on Olive. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many people in my life, your life, anybody's lives, that there's a lot of background characters, but when you like actually take the time to reflect and think about interactions you've had, experiences you've had with them, they almost become a main part of who you are and a main character in your life, but they're not, and it doesn't mean that their impact is any less.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
I'm
loved
trying
him.
to
I
think
loved his
about
character.
who in my life would be that character.
Yeah, I thought about that too as you were talking about him as a sideline character. And I mean, there's definitely like there's a lot of teachers that I've had that have definitely shaped me into who I am today.
Yes.
And just I remember very like basic moments with them that totally stuck with me still to this day. And I don't talk to them anymore, but like I'm friends
Right.
with them on Facebook and I like
Right,
see
right.
what they're doing. They see what I'm doing, but yeah, they had a huge profound impact on who I was and who I became for sure.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I had my 6th grade teacher, Mama T, if you ever hear this, she is the guardian angel in my life I never knew I needed, for sure. And that's so funny that you said you had a teacher too, because teachers are so undervalued. Oh my God.
Dude, they see you for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
My God,
8,
more than my
6? I don't
parents
know.
used to see me, because then I used to go to basketball and then I used to go to dance. I was home maybe like 2 hours a day in my childhood
Yeah.
life. Like my hour when I woke up and the hour when I ate dinner and went to bed. Like that was it.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah, no, they see you. They see you on your good days, see you on your bad days, because you
Yeah.
have to be there.
Yeah, man. Wow.
Oh, man. And the other scene that I love, I forgot I wrote this down. When the brother does break down and he realizes he's colorblind, he like storms out of the bus and he runs down this hill and he's like screaming and cursing and crying, having this huge cathartic moment. And everybody tries to go over and be like, okay, can you like stop? Can you chill out? We have to go. And he's like, no, I'm
Yes.
staying. No, I'm not going. And then Olive decides to go over and they're like, okay, well, Olive's not going to get him to come with us. And the best thing happens. Olive just walks down. She doesn't say anything. He's crying. He's very vulnerable. She sits down. She puts her arm around him and she just rests her head on his shoulder. And they just sit there in silence for a couple minutes. They sit in silence. And after a moment, the brother says, okay. And he goes back.
Yep.
And that moment for me, well, I could probably cry just thinking about it. I bawled my eyes out there because sometimes instead of having people tell you what you should do, instead of, everybody trying to give you the best advice and show you the right direction, sometimes you just need someone to be present and just say nothing at all.
Yeah. I could not agree more.
I loved that moment. It was so simple, but it was so profound and it was so like, oh my gosh, I think I'm getting choked up talking about it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because at the end of the day, he's the perfect example of living through action and not words. Because he takes this vow of silence and he's doing the damn thing. He has been silent. If you look there, he has this like countdown calendar and it's been like some 300 days or something wild. Or it was
been
9
almost
months.
a year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Or
okay.
it was like 9 or 10 months. And like, he is just this example that he's so sick of the people he lives around because all they live is through word and no action. And it's seen in the father, it's seen in the mother, it's seen in their financial struggle as a family, it's seen in the like wildness of grandpa and the non-conformity and the suicidal uncle. Like it's just, he's sick and tired of it, and that's why he took this vow of silence. He's like, no, I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to fucking grind, and I'm going to prove to you that I can do this. And so he chooses to live through action and not words. And Olive in that moment went to his level and said, I don't need to say anything to you. I just need to show you that I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, that just
Dude.
got me a little choked up.
Dude, like, I don't know where that actress is today.
Me
but
neither. I've never seen her in anything else.
She's definitely been in stuff. I feel like I've seen her, but I just, every time her cute little face was on screen, I was like, I love you so much.
Yeah.
I don't even know you, and I just want to give you a big hug. You were the sweetest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And at the end of the day, they all did what they wanted and they fucked the rest.
Do what you love and fuck the rest.
Yep, that's it. If you could take anything away from today's podcast,
Do what you love.
and fuck the rest.
That's it. That's it. All right. What is your overall rating? I feel like I kind of know the answer to this.
10 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, let's just say it was phenomenal. It was
Phenomenal.
such a great movie. Phenomenal. But I can't say nothing but positive things about this. I'm so glad that you got to watch it for a second time and were able to have a completely different takeaway from it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I look forward to watching it again in like 10 years and
Literally,
seeing what else I take away from it then.
the only thing I took away when I watched it as an angsty fucking like 12-year-old was that
You're like, I really vibe with the brother.
no, actually, I did. At that point in time in my life, I was going through probably one of the hardest like emotional roller coasters. I was a 12-year-old hitting puberty, having gone through like my rough first boyfriend and like just stupid things. And so the only thing I really took away from it was the anger that the brother experienced, the complication of suicide and thinking about that, and you're going through those emotional struggles as a kid, and then the family dynamic, because I've always never fit into the normal standards of beauty and whatever. So that's the only thing I really looked at. Whereas like now as an adult, I looked back and watched it and I was just no words.
Yeah.
Blown away.
I think this podcast could easily be 3 hours, but
oh gosh, yeah. We mulled over the movie very fast.
dude, well, it's so hard because there's so much. There's so much. We could sit and talk about an hour about just every character.
Oh God,
and there's
yeah.
5 main characters.
Yeah.
Let alone the experiences they have, the situations they have. It's just, oh my God, there's endless things to talk about. But I agree. I think this was absolutely great. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5. It was a great movie. It's probably one of my favorite types of movies, ones that say a lot about life, but also make you laugh a little bit. I'm not trying to cry my eyes out for 3 hours, but I will cry and laugh and have a good balance. And I felt like that was a good balance.
No, I totally agree.
It was very genuine. It wasn't forced either. It wasn't like they're like, you better cry right now. It was like genuine. It was a genuine emotional experience, and I loved it.
I loved it too. And I think that the way that they posed a lot of these questions and, you know, a lot of the issues, they did it throughout in the same way that Matthew Haig did it in his book. It shows it through little tiny experiences that are just sprinkled in, and notes and things and hints are left throughout the movie. So yeah, awesome movie, 10 out of 10. And you know what? In the beginning of the movie, when the dad says, listen, are you going to be a winner or are you going to be a loser? And she says, Dad, I'm going to be a winner. Imagine if she said, all right, Dad, we can stay home. The whole movie would have never existed and the whole experience would have never happened.
You know, and this movie is a winner. I mean,
it's a winner. 10 out of 10.
But in the most genuine way. It's not a winner like the dad was trying to, you know, conjure up an image of a winner. It's a winner in the sense of doing what you love.
And fucking the rest.
Fucking the rest, because that is what life is really about.
Oh, Lord Jesus. Well, I think that wraps today's episode, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
If you guys have any questions or comments on any of our episodes or suggestions for future episodes.
Oh, yeah. Any books. I was thinking about TV, but I feel like it might have to be something like a limited series, because for us to sit and watch an entire series that is pretty profound, it might take us a while to get to that episode,
yes.
that podcast episode.
No, I totally agree.
But yeah, any suggestions would be great.
We do have an Instagram. It is the.dna.podcast. And we have a Gmail set up for any questions if you guys don't want to DM us. It's the.dna.podcast22@gmail.com. So hit us up.
Do it. All right.
Do it.
Until next time. Hopefully we won't be crying.
Yes. Until next time, if you have the opportunity, watch this movie and read The Humans, because then you'll know what we're talking about. Thanks for tuning in. We hope today's episode makes you feel a little bit more connected to your true self.
Don't forget to follow the DNA Podcast on Instagram so you never miss another episode.
Until next time.